So now you need to determine what species you want to hunt. On my last trip, I was going down there with some buddies, and we just wanted lots of opportunity. So we were going to focus on, shooting some axis does and some whitetail does. We just wanted to have a good time, get some shooting in, and be able to bring some good meat home. And then another buddy wanted to hunt a scimitar oryx. So we got to hunt a scimitar oryx, and it was a for realsies hunt. Like, these guys ended up hoofing it miles chasing this herd, and getting busted by the wind, and having close opportunities, and then finally getting in there close and getting up on the sticks and making a good shot at I think they were shooting like 280 yards or something like that. It was a real shot. So that's a real hunt, and man, what a cool animal. These are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast. The Six Ranch Podcast is brought to you by Sig Sauer. SIG is a leading provider and manufacturer of firearms, electro-optics, ammunition, air guns, and suppressors. For over 250 years, Sig Sauer Inc. has evolved and thrived by blending American ingenuity, German engineering, and Swiss precision. Today, Sig Sauer is synonymous with industry-leading quality and innovation, which has made it the brand of choice amongst the U.S. military, the global defense community, law enforcement, competitive shooters, hunters, and responsible citizens. Sig Sauer is also a premier provider of elite firearms instruction and tactical training at the Sig Sauer Academy located in New Hampshire. For more information about Sig Sauer and its complete line of products, visit sigsauer.com. Welcome back to the show. I just got back from a little trip to Texas. And for you guys that follow the Instagram page, you see that I travel to a lot of states throughout the year to hunt. I'm incredibly fortunate to be able to do that. But one of my very, very favorite places to go to hunt is Texas. And I want to talk about how to plan the type of hunt that I just went on, or something similar, because a lot of people are intimidated by various aspects of how to do it, so they don't ever start. And it's really not that bad. So I want to share with you some of the things that I've learned and really break down how to plan a trip like this. So let's get started. How to plan a hunting trip to Texas. First of all, winter is a great time of year to go. The whitetail rut is a lot later. It's cool down there. There's fewer snakes out. There's fewer bugs out. There are fewer tourists who are kind of mobbing around and clogging up restaurants and stuff like that. So it's just an awesome time to go. And if you live in the north like I do, it's cold up here. Man, the air hurts your skin when you go outside and makes your lungs burn, and everything's white, the same color of the sky and the ground and the snow, and guy can kind of lose his mind if you're not too careful up here. So going to Texas in the winter to hunt, and they might be freezing to death down there for them, but that also might mean that's like 58 degrees. Pretty nice. I kind of like it. So winter is a great time to go for a lot of different species and for a lot of different reasons. One of the considerations with winter travel is you've got to watch how these storms are knocking around the country. And, if airlines are having a bunch of problems, then you just have to adjust your trip a little bit to make it happen. But it's nothing you can't overcome. You just build some flexibility into your plan. Texas is not just one thing or one kind of hunt. They have a massive diversity of species available. So most of the species that you can go and hunt in Africa also exist in Texas. There are species that are extinct in other places that are plentiful in Texas. There are species there like nilgai and axis that come from India. and you can hunt them in Texas, and they're doing really well in Texas. It's pretty cool. And then there's native species like white-tailed deer and javelina, and then there's feral species like hogs. So there's just a lot going on, and some of these things are absolutely tremendous to eat. Some of the best game meat I've ever had is axis deer and nilgai, and both of those are Indian species, the subcontinent of India that now reside in Texas. I think, and I've said this before, and I kind of mean it. I don't know if you put a gun to my head if I would really stick to this, but if we had axis deer where I live, I don't know if I would hunt elk anymore. Now, that's a bold statement. Hunting elk is really incredible, but man, axis are so cool. I am fascinated by them. They're beautiful, they're smart, they're fast. The way they run is just really provocative and smooth. And their antler configurations are interesting. Their vocalizations are interesting. They're really keyed up. They grew up in their ancestry. They evolved with tigers and leopards and some really serious predatory cats. So they're just on edge all the time. And the bucks, they kind of have this Frida Kahlo unibrow thing that makes them look really grumpy all the time. And the meat is tremendous. It is, just right up there with my very favorite meats to eat out of any species, domestic, wild, whatever. I've never got to hunt nilgai. I would love the opportunity because my buddy Kevin brought nilgai tenderloin back one time, and I got to eat that. And holy smokes, was that good. So from a culinary perspective, with what you bring back home, there's a lot of really great options in Texas. So the diversity of the terrain is interesting too. There's places in West Texas, like above Big Bend and Alpine, where it's really steep. Like it's sure enough steep, cliffed out, and you've got aoudad all over that country, free range aoudad. And that, although it's a lot more expensive now than it used to be, is still a really great sheep hunt. So you don't need to spend $30 or $40 or $60,000 to go way north and maybe get a sheep, and you're just trying to, gut it out to look for a legal ram. Like you can go down to Texas for, $6,000 to $10,000, and you can have a really awesome sheep hunt and not have to suffer in a wind-blown tent for 14 days. Or risk getting weathered out where you never get to hunt a single day because, the weather just parks on top of you and you just blew a $30,000 bill just to suffer for a couple weeks. And then, there's some interesting cliff country around Amarillo. There's lots of flat land that's really easy for you to navigate if you've got mobility issues, which is a real thing and something that we don't talk about it enough, especially as Western hunters. Like there's a lot of places that people just can't go, and it's not necessarily about fitness so much as just somebody's mobility. Maybe they're hurt. Maybe they fell down on the ice and broke their foot and can't get around. Well, buddy, Texas might be the thing for you because it's not too tough to navigate in some of these places. The hill country around San Antonio and Austin is absolutely beautiful. It is beautiful. Every time that I've been there, it is gorgeous. I like that place a lot. You're going to have to suffer hearing me say quite a few good things about Texas throughout this thing. So hold on tight or get out of here if you don't like it. So that kind of covers, the species available and the type of terrains that you can expect. And some other reasons to go there. Texans are awesome people. Not all of them, but Texans are generally really cool and interesting people. They're super proud of their state and their heritage and where they come from. They like being Texans, and they've got a genuine sense of hospitality where they want you to have a good experience. They want to facilitate that good experience. They want you to have a good time and feel involved. I really appreciate that about them. And it comes from a genuine place. There are other places in the South where they have Southern hospitality, but it's much more synthetic. And that's just not the experience that I've had in Texas and the times that I've got to go there. So the food is another great reason to go there. Man, it is inexpensive and really high quality. Texas, of course, has a tremendous barbecue tradition with pit barbecue and using lots of mesquite and oak. So you're going to typically find like sausage, chicken, brisket, maybe beef ribs if you're lucky, pork ribs, stuff like that at these hill country barbecues. And they are very, very good. And it's its own style. And you can think of barbecue a little bit like martial arts, where if you go to the Pacific Northwest, it's like mixed martial arts. We just snag like bits of barbecue from all over the country. But if you go to the southern or eastern regions, they're very, very loyal to themselves as far as what style they go with. So you'll find a different barbecue in eastern versus western North Carolina, a different barbecue in Nashville than you'll find in Memphis, and different barbecue in Kansas City. And then again, when you get to Texas, it changes all over again. But they're very loyal to it, and they're good at it. They're practiced. They're waking up at 2:00 in the morning to start these pits, so that when you walk in that door, you've got something that's just perfect. Just perfect. And then the Mexican food, I can't say enough good things about. I had some breakfast tacos in Leakey, Texas, that I feel like might have changed my life. And I'm making it my goal to learn how to make tortillas this year, because the tortillas that we buy in the store are they're a poor imitation of the real thing. So I can't be in Texas all the time, but I'm going to try and figure out how to make that part of my life, because my goodness, those breakfast tacos, they're incredible. They're so good and inexpensive. Like I said, we went out to dinner a bunch of times, 7 guys, having big meals, eating and drinking, and the bill would come back and be like $90. And like, look, if you're in Oregon or Washington, and you go out with your old lady and have a couple hamburgers and a couple drinks, you're probably going to be in that $90 range. So that was really refreshing to see, just an affordable, high quality, home style meal. So I love the food. The culture of Texas is this Tex-Mex blend, and that changes a little bit depending on where you are in the state. And they have a very rich history, and they're knowledgeable about their history. They've preserved these historical sites. They want to talk about it. They want you to see it. And it has a lot to do with the history of our entire country. What Texas went through, before, during, and after the Civil War had an effect on every single state in this country. And it's a history worth knowing. So now you need to determine what species you want to hunt. On my last trip, I was going down there with some buddies, and we just wanted lots of opportunity. So we were going to focus on, shooting some axis does and some whitetail does. We just wanted to have a good time, get some shooting in, and be able to bring some good meat home. And then another buddy wanted to hunt a scimitar oryx. So we got to hunt a scimitar oryx, and it was a for realsies hunt. Like, these guys ended up hoofing it miles chasing this herd, and getting busted by the wind, and having close opportunities, and then finally getting in there close and getting up on the sticks and making a good shot at I think they were shooting like 280 yards or something like that. It was a real shot. So that's a real hunt. And man, what a cool animal. One of the things that surprised me the most about this scimitar oryx, which is sort of like a gemsbok, but they're white and they're really beautiful. The horn was flexible. So when I grabbed this thing to move it around to get it ready for a photo, I felt the horn move, and I was like, oh no, I broke it. But yeah, just interesting to be able to lay your hands on such a cool animal and learn something about it that, like, how else would I ever know that? So that was a lot of fun, and congratulations to Grant for getting really just a tremendous oryx, and it'll be some awesome meat. It'll be a really beautiful mount, and an incredible memory because we got to do it all together as a bunch of fellas. That was fun. But like I said earlier, there's just a huge number of species available in Texas, and you really need to start with, like, what is it that you want to hunt? And then once you figured that out, you can start finding the right outfitter. And that's not always easy. Of course, we're, going to punch up like how to hunt Tasmanian devils in Texas, or, I'm joking, but whatever species it is. And you're going to find these outfitters and start calling them. Ask for references, ask for availability. If an outfitter isn't willing to give you references, you probably shouldn't hunt with them. And really, like a good outfitter, and I'll use an example of an outfitter that I've never hunted with, but I know their reputation, and I know their guides, and I know their policies, and that's Dillinger River Outfitters in Alaska. Dillinger, if you ask them for references, they'll give you all of their previous clients, whether they've hunted successfully or not. So did they have a bad trip? Did they have a good trip? Are they upset about it? You could potentially access all of that, but with that transparency, they want people to know going into it what to expect. And one of the best ways to develop that expectation is by talking to another client and getting the client's perspective. There are some ways to hunt public land in Texas on your own. They don't have a lot of public land, but they do have it. And I think that the best way to go about doing that is to talk to a tag management agency like the Draw, so that they can help you figure out what those public land opportunities are. And they've kind of got some little hacks, some little cheat codes into getting some really good things out of Texas. And you're just going to have to call and talk to them. So they are We Are the Draw on Instagram, and you can just look them up on the internet too. So I use those guys a lot, and they treat me really good. Okay, so you found an outfitter with availability, you called the references, and you feel good about them. They're within your budget, and they're telling you that, they can offer you the type of hunt that you're looking for, not only species-wise, but sort of how you want to hunt and what experience you want to get out of it. So you pay your deposit with them. Now is a good time to get trip insurance, so that if something happens, you don't lose your deposit, you don't lose all the money that you put into it, time off, etc. Trip insurance varies quite a bit in what it covers, but it's really affordable, and it's a good idea. I've had to eat thousands of dollars over the last few years in trips that were canceled by things that were outside of my control. And now I use trip insurance, and it's kind of remarkable that since I started buying insurance, nothing bad happens, but it's pretty affordable, and definitely a smart thing to do. So look at trip insurance, and your outfitter should be able to help you with that. If they can't, then talk to the guys at the Draw, and they've got some resources for trip insurance for hunting. That's just a good idea. Now, one other thing that you want to ask the outfitter about is timing. And that could be like, we always get monsoons at this time of year, or, that time of year is right when these deer start to shed. So you got to be careful when you grab your buck, otherwise an antler will pop off. Or, all the axis deer don't have antlers at this time. There's a lot of things that just because it fits into your schedule doesn't necessarily mean it's the best time to go. So that's something that's worthwhile asking the outfitter about, and asking the references that you call about. You also want to ask the outfitter for a gear list, because they're going to know exactly what is needed for you to be successful. And that's going to come down to, the type of gun and optic and ammo that you bring, the clothes that you wear, whether you're going to bring a tripod or, a myriad of other things. They should give you a comprehensive gear list, and then I recommend that you abide by that. And if they say, I want you to bring, this Eberly stock pack, then you should do that. Like, you should try to get that pack if you can. It's also fair game to ask them why. Like, why is this important? And I'll give you an example of this. I went mountain goat hunting on Kodiak a few years ago with Cole Kramer, and he gave me 2 specific boot brands, like make, model, everything that he recommended. And I was like, oh, I've hunted on mountains all my life. I'm going to wear what I wear. And I got up there, and yeah, I have hunted on mountains all my life, but I've never hunted on steep, grassy slopes before. And what that did to my ankles was pretty incredible. And I would have been better off wearing the type of boots that, surprise, surprise, the local expert in hunting there recommended. So my own arrogance cost me some pain, and lesson learned, hopefully. I'll probably make that mistake again, but you guys are smarter than I am, and I want you to learn from my mistakes and not make them on your own. So we've got our gear list. We got it purchased. You need to be able to get that gear there safely. So that means that you're protecting everything within your pack, because a lot of these items are sensitive or fragile. I try to put as many fragile things as I legally can in my carry-on, especially optics and things like that. And that way I can, really, really take care of them on the way there. If I can't, like a gun, for example, or ammunition, I want to really protect that. So that's going to mean that I'm, using a really high quality rifle case, that I'm protecting my ammunition, wrapping stuff up as much as possible. Something that I, historically have struggled with is having guns show up and they're no longer sighted in. And I'm using the highest quality of everything. And I still show up. And yeah, there's atmospheric differences that will change your zero. And typically I'm within 1 MOA or 1 inch at 100 yards, which is oftentimes a negligible difference when you're hunting. But we want everything to be perfect. So one of the things that I started doing this year that made a massive difference is I got a Pinocchio case from Paladin 33. And it's a soft case that my rifle goes in that then goes inside of my hard case, right? So now, no matter how the luggage handlers toss stuff around, that gun is protected inside a hard case and inside a soft case. Then as a bonus, the soft case unfolds and is a shooting mat, so that when I get there and I need to confirm my zero and I lay this thing out, everybody else is getting cactus in their knees and elbows, and I'm just comfortably, laying on this multi-purpose shooting mat / carry case / gun protection, and it's awesome. Having a gun in a soft case once you're at a destination is really nice. Most soft cases are too big and bulky. This one is not. 10 out of 10 would recommend to a friend. Check it out. That's the Pinocchio case from Paladin 33. And subsequently, it is 100% American made. The thread, the ink, the fabric, made right here in Oregon. Proud of those guys. Good job. Okay. Flying with guns. This is one of the hangups that a lot of people have. They don't know how to do it. And because they don't know how, and they might even be afraid to do a Google search of it, because some FBI agent on the other side of it will put you on a secret naughty boy list. Flying with guns is really not that hard. So I budget an extra 15 minutes when I'm flying with a gun over when I normally fly. So if you're show up an hour and a half early kind of guy, then become an hour and 45 minute early kind of guy or gal. So when you're going to fly with a firearm, it needs to be in a locked hard case, and you need to have a lock everywhere that there's a hole for a lock. So if there's 4 holes in the case, you need to have 4 locks on it. Now, every airport is going to be similar but different in how they deal with this. So basically, I walk in and I've got all my locks on my rifle case, and I've got my luggage, and I've got my carry-on. I switch all the locks. I use combination locks, and I switch it all so that the combinations are pointing up towards me. And when I walk up to the ticket counter, I say, "Hello, how's your day? I would like to declare a firearm." And they say, okay. And they give you this little orange slip, and you're going to sign and date that. And that's saying that you swear, based on this orange slip, that your firearm or firearms are unloaded. You'll open the case and put the little orange firearms declaration slip inside the case. Now, when I close it up with the locks facing down. Some airports will ask you to keep the case open. Every airport handles this a little bit differently, but all these firearms are going to get checked by TSA. But what typically happens at most airports is they'll ask you to close it back up, and they'll either have you carry it over to a TSA check station, or they'll send it on the normal little luggage moving sidewalk thing back to where the TSA folks live. And they'll say, hey, can you hang out for 5 or 10 minutes while we check this? And what they're going to do is they're going to take a little Swiffer thing, and they're going to run it around the edge of your case. Sometimes they'll ask you to open it so that they can run around the inside of the case, make sure there's not any kind of funky explosives or whatever they're checking for in there. And then they'll come back and say, all right, sir, you're good to go. And you say, thank you very much. Hope you have a great day. And you move on with your life and you go to security. A couple other things that's important when you're flying with firearms is your ammunition. You can carry up to 11 pounds of ammunition, and it has to be in plastic ammunition boxes or its original packaging. It can't be loose, and it can't be inside magazines. So you need to be aware of that. I always empty out every single pocket on every single bag before I fly, and then before I fly to come home again. Because that one round of ammo that you jacked out of your gun right after you shot that deer and you put it in your pocket, it ends up someplace. You just don't need that hassle. So I check all the pockets and make sure that all the ammo is accounted for and is where it's supposed to be, and I don't have anything where it's not supposed to be. You can fly with your ammo inside of the same case as your rifle. And typically that's what I do. So I'll put all my ammo on one end, I'll put, my rifle in there, and then I want to get that case right up to that 50-pound weight limit. So I might add some optics or some other things that are sensitive in there, even like rolled up blue jeans or, whatever. Get that up to 50 pounds, just under, and then that case is good to go. It's pretty nice to have a case with little rolly wheels because a 50-pound rifle case can become a lot to carry for much of a distance. So the rolly wheels are a pretty nice feature. What I do, since I'm flying with a cross rifle, is I have a much smaller Pelican case with the rifle folded. And then I just set that case on top of my Eberle stock Atlas duffel. There's some big straps over the top of it. I strap the gun case to that. The duffel has wheels. And then I can carry all of it one-handed, no effort, up and down stairs, really nice and convenient. So that's how I get around airports, and I'm flying, like I said, a heck of a lot, lots of states every year. So that's how I do it. And it's not weird. The agents have all seen guns fly through, usually every day. It's not a big deal. The only time it's ever gotten weird for me was one time in Rapid City, South Dakota. When I opened the case, the gal there was like, what kind of rifle is that? And I said, well, that's a Sig Sauer cross rifle. And it had this really beautiful leather wrap on the forend that Alice Budd from Running Water Leather had made for me. And anyways, this lady reaches down and grabs my rifle and turns around, and she wants to show everybody back there. And I was like, well, let's kind of keep the gun in the box here while we're in the airport. But really, that's a positive experience, and that's the only time it's gotten even vaguely weird for me. Another funny one was in Boston, Massachusetts. Flew into Boston. Massachusetts has some funky gun laws. The airport has some funky gun policies. So I had 4 locks on my gun case, but they required that they have zip ties through 2 of the lock holes before you can leave the building. So they made me take 2 of my locks off so that they could put zip ties through 2 of those holes before I could leave. Like, whatever, Massachusetts, you guys do you. Those, they throw tea in the harbor up there, so they're not always the people that you want to reason with. So flying with bows is much the same. It's going to be in a hard case, put locks on it. Just tell them at the ticket counter, I've got a bow. But yeah, it's really not that hard, not that much different from flying normal luggage. So rental vehicles, I almost always get the biggest thing that I can, and whether that's a pickup truck, in case you have to be the one to haul gear or deer or whatever around, or if you end up with extra people, or maybe you can help the outfitter out and keep mileage off their rig and be like, hey, you want to just jump in with me? Probably they won't, but you're making yourself as capable and helpful as possible, and you don't know what kind of terrain you're going to be over. So if you get the most budget, low clearance, sedan that you can find, you might not even be able to get to wherever the hunting lodge is. You could get stuck in a mud puddle on the way there, and that'd be embarrassing. So I tend to rent the larger SUVs and pickups, and that's just a little bit of common sense, but definitely something that you could look over if you didn't know. Another thing is that the price isn't substantially different. So you're getting a lot more capability out of the vehicle for just about the same amount of money. And that's always a good thing. The time of day that you travel is also important. Flights tend to get a little bit more backed up, delayed, and screwed up as the day goes on. And then there's a lull around 3 o'clock in the morning. And after that, they're able to reset a little bit. So flights from 4 a.m. onwards tend to be more on time than flights that leave after noon. So I usually try to book flights that are as early in the day as possible, just so that I don't experience those delays. Hunt expectations. So this should be something that you've talked over with the outfitter, but you need to know what they expect of you. Like, are you going to be in a tree stand or a ground blind? Is it 2 sits a day? Is it 1 sit a day? How long are you going to be out there? Are you going to be hiking? Are you going to be riding in vehicles? Are you physically capable of all this? Are you mentally capable? Is this what you want? These are all things that you need to develop at the front end so that when you get there, you're not surprised and you're like, man, I really didn't want to, sit in a tree stand for 5 days straight, 10 hours a day. That was a lot. I didn't have fun. If you would have asked beforehand, what's this hunt going to be like? They would have told you, and you could have said, well, that's not really what I'm interested in. I want to be able to walk around, or I'm afraid of heights, so I want to hunt out of a ground blind. And, a lot of times outfitters can accommodate your special needs, and they should. If they can't, then, that's the time to be like, hey, I really appreciate it. Is there somebody that you recommend that could offer this type of hunt? And then, you just move on. And then another thing that's important to understand is how much do you want to participate in this hunt? So do you want to be, waking up early and making coffee with the guides and helping load vehicles and, doing as much as possible? Or do you want to have a lot more stuff done for you, and all you want to do is roll in and pull the trigger and leave? Do you want to be there to help field dress animals and process meat and stuff like that? Those are all things that you need to answer for yourself and then talk about with the outfitter and with the guide so that they can make sure that they're giving you the experience that you want to have. If you're wanting to get a specific size of animal, then that's another conversation you want to have with the outfitter, and it's fair game to ask for pictures. If you want a 170-inch whitetail, then they say, yeah, we got that. No problem. We should be able to find that if you hunt hard for, a week straight. Say, cool, can you send me some game camera photos? If they can't produce that, then it might be that they're blowing a little bit of smoke at you. So, we want to trust everybody, but we also want to inspect everything as much as we can. So those are some ways you can develop your expectations for the hunt and for how you're going to participate in it. Now we've got the after the shot stuff. How is this animal getting removed from the field? I've been with outfitters that, really they're just providing the land to hunt on, and they're expecting you to remove that animal, to clean that animal, to process the meat, and that's that's perfectly fine as long as you know how to do that, you bring the right tools for it, and that's what you're wanting. If that's not what you're wanting, and that's the outfitter's expectation of you, then you might have some problems. So it's a good idea to talk with them ahead of time about, like, hey, what's going to happen with this meat. The gentleman that I've hunted with the most down there, Brandon from El Sapo Guide Service, I think he's just top notch. Top notch. As far as outfitters I've hunted with, around the world and around the country, Brandon is doing the best job of anybody. And he's like, even though I've been guiding for 22 years, he is my role model. I think that, that guy's just killing it. So when I talked to Brandon, like, hey, what are we going to do with meat? What are we going to do for taxidermy? He's like, well, if we hunt this place, then we're going to go to, Hook and Bee Outfitters, and, they're going to do all your meat processing, and they're going to take care of your taxidermy for you, and they're going to send it to you. Cool. Like, that one-stop shop. If we go to this place, and we're going to go to this spot in Sonora, Texas, and they're going to do all the same thing for you. These folks are set up really well. So my previous experience down there was hunting an axis buck with Brandon a couple years ago. And we got this deer, we took it to a walk-in cooler. It had an electric winch. We gutted the animal and we put it in the cooler. And then somebody came and got it out of the cooler, took it to the processor. Then the processor called me and said, hey, what do you want done with this deer? And I said, well, I would like a Euro mount for the skull, and I'd prefer that it was beetled rather than boiled. And they're like, cool, done. What about the hide? It's like, well, I want a flat skin. And a flat skin means that they're just going to tan the hide and send it back to me. And I've got it hanging over the back of my recliner right now. So I snuggle up into that thing every night that I'm home. And it's just pretty, and it reminds me of the experience and the good times that I've had down there. So get a flat hide. They're like, all right, meat. Let's start with the hindquarters. Do you want those whole? Do you want those cut into steaks and roast? Do you want burger? And because I like to do the old flip-flop thing for my friends, I say, just send them to me whole. Like, cool. Back straps. Do you want those cut into steaks? Do you want them cut in half? Do you want them whole? Send them whole. Cool. Tenderloin, send them whole. Front shoulders, what do you want? I said, grind it, fine grind, 20% pork fat. Done. And then they call me and they say, hey, everything's ready to ship. Are you going to be home on this day? And I say, yes, ma'am, I am. Great. That day comes up. They say, hey, your stuff is going to arrive today between this time and this time. Just wanted to make sure you're home. Yes, I am. Thank you very much. They call me again. They say, hey, it shows that that your meat was delivered. Just wanted to make sure that you received it and everything looks good. Yeah, everything looks awesome. So this is the quality that you can expect from, some of these game processors and taxidermy services in Texas, especially if you're working with a reputable outfitter that is going to do a good job and work with good people. So that's been my experience for the game processing, the taxidermy, meat management. I also want to talk a little bit about this. A lot of people sort of treat European mounts like it's a lower tier. Like if it's a really big animal, then you're going to get a shoulder mount. And if it's a little bit smaller, then you're just going to do a Euro. Man, I think that's bonkers. I love Euros. I think that they're really classy. They're beautiful. They're interesting. And, I just like it. I like skulls. I think that they're freaking cool. So I love my Euro mounts. And the bigger the animal is, the better the Euro mount looks. Okay. Taxidermy is a really precise skill, and it's really, really easy to get wrong. Taxidermists are tremendous artists when they're getting stuff right. And they have to know, the muscle details of a dozen or more different animals and how those muscles are going to change based off the posture and the mannequin that they're using. Taxidermy tends to take up a lot more space as well. So that's a factor depending on what your living situation is. And so while they're both fantastic options, my go-to a lot of times is to get a Euro of the skull and then get the flat skin. And by doing that, then the flat skin is also more available for people to look at and touch and sort of have a physical experience with. And I just think that that's cool. So there are some other options out there for people, and taxidermists are very, very creative. If you have a taxidermist that does all of your work, ask them for how you would like the cape cut off of the animal, and a lot of times they can draw you a little diagram, and then take that with you so that when that animal is being skinned out, or when you're doing it, you can do it exactly the way that your taxidermist wants, and they can, freeze that hide and send it to your taxidermist, and send the antlers to your taxidermist, or horns, or whatever. So there is some work to be done on the front end, though. So now that your hunt is concluded and you've got all the meat taken care of, and the taxidermy is getting taken care of, now is an excellent time to rebook with that outfitter if you had a good experience and you want to come back. Rebooking later on through email, phone calls is always going to be a lot more challenging than when you're sitting there with the person and say, you know what, I had an awesome time. This was so much fun. I want to do this again. What's your schedule look like next year? Or, is it going to take 2 years for you to save enough money to come back? And they're going to sit down and open up their calendar and say, gosh, you were great to have here. I enjoyed hunting with you. What does your schedule look like for here? And, that's the time to rebook if you want to. It's the best time for you to rebook. If you didn't have a great experience, then maybe you need to shop around a little bit more next year, take your lessons learned, and then know whether that experience was on the outfitter or just circumstantial. Like, did you ask for something that wasn't a sure thing, that wasn't necessarily achievable? Did the outfitter put in all the effort possible to ensure your success, or did they just kind of mail it in and treat you like a number? All of it's possible. There's good and bad outfitters out there, but that's kind of the way I would approach that one. And if you did have a good experience, yeah, go ahead and rebook with them, because that's the time to do it, and you're going to have a lot of fun. Now you got to get home again. So we're going to empty all of our pockets, make sure we don't have any spare ammo or any crazy things. You might need to weigh stuff to make sure that your bags are all balanced and nothing's over 50 pounds, because that gets really expensive if you are over 50 pounds. And once everything is weighed and measured and the ammo's all in the right place, you're going to head back to the airport, drop off your rental. You're going to put your rifle case on top of your Eberly stock Atlas duffel, and then you're going to head over there to the counter and say, hi, how's your day? I'd like to declare a firearm, go through the whole thing, fly back home, get in your rig, come back, and be smiling, just every inch of the way, because you had an awesome time and you planned, prepared, and executed this trip perfectly. And the more you do this, the better you'll get at it and the less intimidating it will become. If you have questions specifically about how to plan a hunt to Texas or any other place, I encourage you to reach out to the folks at The Draw. They can help you with that, or you can reach out to me directly, and I'll answer questions to the best of my ability, or get you in touch with somebody who's smarter than me. Thank you guys very much, and it's New Year's. Let's have a good one, and let's move around and experience this great country of ours and do some more hunting. Let's do that. Let's hunt more this year. Happy New Year's, everybody. What I remember is getting up in the dark, shuffling on out to the pickup and climbing in, heading out, headlights going out over the fields and the roads, and getting back into the mountains and the timber, and knowing that there was a destination out there that I was going to be sharing with my dad. And at some point, either during the drive or once we got out to some ridge that we were going to be watching when the sun came up, you'd hear that little squeak of the lid coming off of the thermos. And then you unscrew that top part a little bit, pour that coffee or hot chocolate into a cup, and you can just see the little tiny vapors of steam coming off of it, curling up into the morning. and holding on to that thing like it was a prayer, and blowing some of the heat off of it and taking that first hot drink in the morning, and then the same thing that evening, because if there was anything left, it was still going to be hot. Like, those are core memories. Those are part of growing up and part of being an adult, and then sharing that. Now, I'm getting to share that with my nephew and giving him those experiences. And it's an accessory to the experience. But part of what I remember about hunting and working with my family as a little kid was that there was this green, beat to hell, still going strong Stanley thermos. And now there's a complete line of Stanley products out there. And if you go to stanley1913.com, you can look into those and see if there's something out there that you need, or that you want, or that you would like to give to somebody else. And if you use the discount code 6RANCH, the number 6 and the word ranch, and you can get 25% off of just about anything in their store. I encourage you to do it. They're great supporters of this show. They're great supporters of this audience. I love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all of your support and your attention. We're not stopping. We're going strong. And I'm glad to pass along this discount to you guys. And I hope that you find something that can help develop that core memory for you and the people that you love. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share the show with a friend. You can also rate the podcast and leave a review. Your support allows me to keep doing what I love, which is meeting incredible folks and sharing their stories with you. For more content and photos, follow the show on Instagram at 6Ranch Podcast, or me at 6Ranch Outfitters. This episode was produced by Emily Brannigan, with original music written and performed by Justin Hay. Art for the 6Ranch Podcast was created by John Chatelain and digitized by Celia Christofferson. Tune in every Monday for a brand new episode of the 6Ranch Podcast. I'll catch you next week.